The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View, sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee. And if you want, we meet at the Crown Plaza the second Thursday of every month. And if you want to find out more information, you can go to our website at nashuagop.org.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, and help me greet our guest, Fran Wendelboe. Fran, you've been around, you're an activist, and you're one of the co-founders of the 603 organization. Tell us about it.
Well, the 603 Alliance was kind of a brainchild of a group of conservatives who, after the last election, said, we can't let this happen again. So we came together and we started meeting throughout this idea of having a caucus in New Hampshire to try to get people to start aligning behind one candidate for us to unify and not be spread all over 17 candidates. So we started making plans, and in early March we had a meeting of a great majority of the leaders of the various conservative organizations, from the Tea Party to the Libertarians, the Free Staters, the Common Core people, the Right to Work, the major groups within the microcosm of conservative politics in New Hampshire. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a free-for-all, you know, because we had kept it under wraps. Nobody knew what we were working on. They got invited to this meeting saying, it's going to be an interesting meeting. We want your input. So as we talked, I said to myself, oh, they're going to start saying, you're crazy. But as we continued, we started to see the heads nodding, yes. They saw the need for it, and they all said, thank goodness somebody has come together to give some leadership on this, because they know if we spread ourselves all over the map, we're going to end up with the candidate who is the establishment candidate, the moderate candidate, the candidate who likely isn't going to go on to win the general election, because there's not enough difference between them and the Democrat. So that's the kind of short description of the 603 Alliance, to get Republicans to unify early on behind a good, strong, constitutional, conservative candidate.
And your first event is going to be coming up in, 2 months?
Well, the big event is coming up in 2 months. Our first event was, we had our major announcement back in April, and then we had a large summit here in Nashua. That was a day-long event, had 25 speakers, that was policy-oriented. We didn't invite candidates. We wanted to gather grassroots activists concerned with various issues. And we had speakers from all over the world that came in. It was very successful. And now it's leading up to October 17th. That's when our caucus is. It's going to be open to every voter that's a Republican or an undeclared voter in the state of New Hampshire. They can come, sign in, have their verification that they're on the voter checklist. They have to show a photo ID to be able to vote. And then we'll start counting heads and keep dropping off candidates who are not getting very many votes.
I see. And this is going to be where?
It's going to be at Hopkinton Fairgrounds, October 17th. Registration starts at, I think 8:30 in the morning. No, 10 o'clock in the morning. It opens like at 8:30. There's going to be some opportunity for candidates to be there then and have rallies with their supporters and so on. Voting would start about 11:30, and we'll vote till we come out with the number one candidate.
I see. So it's a series of votes, and the lower ones keep dropping out.
Keep dropping out. We're still working on the rules, but one of the rules is that if you get less than 25 votes, you're going to be dropped. It's not going to be considered significant enough. And then we'll just keep dropping 2 at a time until we get to the top 4. Then when we get to the last 4, we'll take individual votes and drop the last 1, then go to the 3, drop the low one, go to the 2, and then of course when you get to the 2,
It's going to be a long day.
we figure it's going to take about 4 hours of voting time.
yeah.
It hasn't been done before here in New Hampshire. This is the maiden.
I don't know where anything like this has been done. It's an ambitious program.
It is very ambitious, and then of course we've pledged to get behind and support the candidate who wins our caucus. And we picked it October 17th because that'll give us 3 months before our First in the Nation primary, so that we can really help that candidate, start campaigning for them, knocking on doors, the usual stuff that grassroots supporters do.
Well, you're going to have a problem too with some of these campaigns, so they're not going to want to give up. How do you, I know you're going to have a group of people here in New Hampshire, but all those people that put in the money for candidate X, Y, and Z that didn't make it are going to still want to push.
And it's kind of funny because the first concern that people came up with was, well, what if a bunch of Democrats register as undeclared voters and come vote and try to mess with who wins? And I said, I don't think that's going to happen. No. I really don't. I have faith enough in the system that they have their process, we have ours. Then the second one was, well, what if Jeb Bush buses in all kinds of people and buys it? And we said, the format this is, every single person that supported every other candidate would have to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to vote for Jeb. I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah. Of course, now the big concern is, what if Trump wins? So,
he'll fly him in by the bus float.
Give helicopter rides from downtown Concord. But, what happens, and I think by mid-October, I think it's going to be a demonstration of organization. Campaigns, if they engage and urge their supporters to come and vote, it'll show who has the strongest organization. There is no charge for people to come and vote. A lot of people have heard about the Iowa straw poll that they usually have in the summer that they're not having this year because it had just gotten to be nothing but a huge fundraising machine for the Republican Party. We don't have anything to do with the Republican Party. This is an absolutely independent group working on this. But people had to buy tickets for it, and so the richest campaigns would buy the most tickets and give them people, oh, here, come to the caucus, there's going to be all kind of bands, there's going to be free barbecue, there's going to be all these things. And it became very expensive, millions and millions of dollars for the candidates to really compete. We don't want that to happen here in New Hampshire. We want it to be a level playing field. Campaigns are welcome. We do have a fee format if they want to rent space for tents and so on, but there's not going to be a ticket charge, and we certainly aren't going to charge anybody to vote.
Are you attracting a lot of the independent, non-affiliated people to your organization?
Well, we are. It's across the board. Mostly conservatives.
Yeah.
But yeah, undeclared voters are saying, yeah, this is something I want to see about. Of course, we won't know, for a fact until the day of. We are doing something different, though. We are going online at our website, which is 603alliance.org, and you can pre-check in to vote.
That would be good.
So that will speed the process, and it'll also give us a little inclination of how many people are coming. So you can save times, because then when you get there, you can go to a separate area where all they're going to have to do is check your voter ID, your photo ID, your driver's license or passport or whatever, and certify you, put your band on you. Whereas other people coming, you're going to have to be found on the checklist, make sure that that's you, look at the ID. So I think it'll speed the process. So they just simply can go online and check in that they're coming.
Oh, well, that's going to be interesting to see how many of those people will come, because I think they're probably looking for some sort of organization that has something of interest to them, because they don't really get gathered in on these primary things.
And the New Hampshire primary is so important, Carl. You know how important our primary is. It sets the tone for the rest of the campaign. They come out of Iowa, which is a totally different animal than New Hampshire. Iowa is much more socially conservative. And the candidate that comes out winning Iowa isn't necessarily the same candidate that's going to come out winning New Hampshire. So they get a bump out of Iowa. if we have a candidate that wins Iowa and then comes here and wins here, they are really on a level playing field. It doesn't matter how much the establishment is pushing their candidate or how many hundreds of millions of dollars the candidate has been able to raise. It puts it on a level playing field. And I think people like to see that in politics.
Well, aren't you surprised a little bit about how many Republican candidates there are? I mean, we always have a big group coming into New Hampshire, but not 17 or 18 or whatever.
It's ironic, Carl. I have a friend in North Carolina that I was corresponding with, and I was mentioning the cruise on the Mount Washington that the Belknap
yes,
County
that's
Republicans have every year at the end of May. And I was saying that Jim Gilmore and Bob Ehrlich were on it, as well as Pataki and some of the other presidential candidates. She came back and she said, Ehrlich and Gilmore? Are they running? And I said, see, you guys are saved, all of these candidates, because usually by the time they get to you, we've weeded them out to, maybe 8 or 9. This year, I can see where we have as strong as many as 10 on that ballot in February when we actually vote. But really, there's like 30-something names for president on our ballot because it only costs $1,000 to run for president. So if you have $1,000 and you want to see your name listed running for the president of the United States in New Hampshire, that's all it costs. And so there was more than 30 on our ballot last time running for president.
Well, I know that, but nobody ever thinks of the 20 or so that, 10 people, I think, in my experience here, is probably the maximum that I've heard of.
But what's really exciting about our field, and I write a column for the Concord Monitor on Sundays, and I wrote about this in one. The diversity is in the Republican Party, not in the Democratic Party.
That's right.
We've got a woman, we've got a black gentleman, we have an Indian of Indian ancestry, we have 2 Latinos, youth. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think we have 4 or 5 candidates in their 40s. Our oldest candidate is Donald Trump. And I think he's about 70. He's around the same age as Hillary. Hillary will be pushing 70 if she were to get the nomination. Bernie Sanders is, I think, like 73. Biden is 70-something. And historically, over the last several elections, we, as a nation, have been electing younger and younger presidents. Barack Obama was in his late 40s. Clinton was in his 40s. President G.W. Bush was in his low 50s. I find it hard to believe that we're going to take this hard left turn and all of a sudden say, let's elect the person that's going to be as old as Reagan was when he left. So it's going to be interesting. But we have the diversity.
We have very good diversity. I always said that we have a whole cabinet running. I mean, any one of those, you could get 10 people to take the heads of the different departments out of that group, and you'd be a winner.
And the experience, we have corporate executives and Carly Fiorina and Donald Trump. We have United States senators, governors, strong base of experience and knowledge. So I think we're in a great shape to have a candidate that America could be proud to have as president.
Well, are you going to talk about anything else, like vice presidents at your shindig in October?
We aren't, and I don't even know. I don't think we have the vice president race anymore. No. I think we just did away with it. You used to be able to run for vice president in New Hampshire as well. It's going to be interesting to see who gets picked as a running mate, and I think some of the people running kind of know in their hearts that there's no way that they're going to become president, but they're looking at a VP slot or a cabinet slot, I think.
I agree with you there. There are several that aren't running already that I think would be good candidates. I don't know how you sort that out right now, but I guess some of the people are thinking of, well, who would I be good with? Who would I pair up with? There's going to be a draw somehow, whether it's an ethnic thing or whether it's a talent, a particular talent. I think the governors are sort of taking a lead in a way. I mean, Like, how many of them are governors? There's 6 or 7, aren't
Yeah, there are, and it's interesting. I attended the New Hampshire GOP First in the Nation summit that they had here for 2 days. Actually, it was before the 603, the day before the 603 summit, in the same exact location. And Frank Luntz, the pollster, did a session, and he asked the group, governor or United States Senate, who do you think would be better as president? And the great majority of people said governor, because they feel of the executive experience. But in today's world, foreign policy is so critical, and there's not a lot of governors that get a lot of foreign policy experience. I mean, Rick Perry could, conceivably claim it because of relationship with that Mexican border, but
Well, Carly Fiorina, she's met as many people as the Secretary of State has.
and I think she probably has. She's a very dynamic woman. I've met personally with her a number of times, and I've always been extremely impressed with her. I'm neutral, so I get to talk to them all and see them all and critique them all, so to speak. But we have a great field.
Well, that's what we're running here too. We like to remain neutral and not come out with any favorite, although, I have my thoughts on the whole thing. But they're so talented. They are. They can. The ones that I've interviewed here have been real sharp. I'd take any one of them.
Well, there's about 5 or 6 of them that I would be very comfortable voting for. There's about 5 or 6 of them that there's no way I could vote for them. Common Core is very important to me. I'm a former chairman of a school district budget committee, and I keep my ear to the ground very closely on education issues, and I don't think Common Core is a good thing for any school district. The Second Amendment is very important. Illegal immigration is off the charts as far as importance. I don't think that the media really gets it. I mean, they keep wondering, how is Donald Trump being, so high in the polls? It's because he's saying things that the average person thinks. He perhaps says it a little bit indelicately. If I was of Mexican descent, if I had immigrated legally to America, I would be so ticked off at these people coming in illegally, because that puts you in doubt, that when people see you, they wonder, oh, is this another illegal alien? So I would think Hispanics would want to say, hey, my relatives and my friends are on a list, and they're going through all kind of hoops to be able to come here. And now millions of you are coming in illegally and preventing people who have done the legal way from being able to get in.
One thing that bothers me about that whole issue is I don't hear anybody talking about reforming ICE. Right now, that, in my mind, is a big block for people who are coming in legally. They take, 5, 10, 15 years before they can get their citizenship. There's no reason you can't get your citizenship pretty quick, and after, say, 5 years the most.
It's all part of the bigger problem, and Donald Trump recently said management, that he'll do it by management. Right. Everybody in the media seems to say, we want a, plan.
Right.
Nobody's got a really in-depth plan in generalities, because they start getting torn apart. But, he's right. We should make it easier for the people on the legal path to get in. And we should be able to deport those. And I'll be honest with you, 11 million, 20 million, whatever the number is, I don't really see how you round those people up easily and send them back. And what if Mexico says, no, we don't want them? I mean, if they came here illegally in the middle of the night across the border, they don't have passports. They didn't come in on a passport. How do we prove that they're even Mexican?
Yeah.
So there are some finer details to figure out. If you can't prove you're an American citizen, obviously you're not, but how easily it is to send you somewhere else after that, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of management with the whole organization. You got to trim down the government, as far as I'm concerned. They're just too fat.
Oh, it is, and they tie the hands of the border agents. A judge just ordered all these the children of illegal immigrants released because they didn't like the conditions that they were being housed in. You know,
And
they're
then I
being
read
fed,
about-
they're
yeah.
being clothed.
They get entertainment. They can get free phone calls to relatives back in Mexico or Nicaragua or wherever they're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, they get everything they want, better than some of the people our veterans are being treated.
And that's odd that you mentioned the veterans. That was the other thing I thought Donald Trump was going to take
Yeah.
some real hits over, was his comments about John McCain. And I believe John McCain is a hero. I might not politically agree with him, but anybody who serves their country, I believe, is a hero. Whether they took a bullet or not,
Yeah.
they did the service to their nation, and they should be considered with great respect. Trump at least turned it around and then said, what's he done for veterans? He, of all people, should be out there fighting for veterans.
Right.
And so I think he was able to save himself over that.
Well, he somehow does that. I mean, he's a little bit rash in the way he responds sometimes, but once he thinks things out, I think he can come up with a solution. And I think what you're saying, you have to work on the solution. You have to fine-tune it as you implement it. And that's the only way you're going to get something that works. You don't know enough about it right now to come out with a 10-point program that you're going to say we have to follow immediately.
There are a number of things. It goes back to if we just follow the law. If we tightened up the penalties against anyone who's found to have hired an illegal alien who did not have real, proper documentation, you throw the book at them, the jobs are going to dry up.
That's right.
There's no jobs, they're not coming.
That's right.
Anybody that is arrested and in our jails, they should be deported immediately. The anchor babies, it's a great idea. And it's one of those politically incorrect things, this beating of your chest. If you're born on American soil, you're an American. I might agree with that if you're here on a green card legally, or if you're traveling through and you're here on a vacation and you go into labor early and you have your baby. But if you're here breaking the law to be here, I think all bets are off. And I read that there are 400,000 babies born every year in America now to illegal aliens and then become anchor babies. So, at least Donald Trump had the guts to bring up the subject. And, maybe you can't say retroactively, we're going to take it away from you. But from this point forward, it's not going to be an anchor anymore.
Well, I think what he's relying on, too, is the Constitution allows legislation to handle that. It's not something that that should be built into the law without actually having a law voted on.
They're interpreting the Constitution in one of the protection clauses, that it says if you are subject to the authority of the United States, something along that line. I don't know if you're here illegally, if you're really subject to the authority. You're subject in that if you commit a crime, you can be arrested, but you are technically subject to your home country, I believe. But that's for constitutional scholars to argue, and I believe Ted Cruz is a constitutional scholar. Let him figure it out.
I think he's much better than the constitutional scholar we supposedly have there now. But anyway, it looks like it's going to be an interesting time. I'm glad I'm here in New Hampshire for something like this and something that you're putting together. I can't wait for that October meeting and seeing how it functions. I really hope that you're able to pull it all together. And I hope you get some. Are you looking for volunteers now to help you out?
We absolutely are. If you go to our website, there's more information about the 603 Alliance and ways for you to volunteer, as well as to sign on to be able to be pre-registered. We try not to use register. We try to say pre-check-in because we don't want anybody to think that they can show up there and say, I want to register to vote. We can't register anybody to vote. This is not anything to do with the state of New Hampshire. We are using the official checklist of the state of New Hampshire, but it's not the state, it's not the Republican Party, it's a totally separate entity.
Okay, so people, have they started yet registering?
We're just going online this week for
Oh,
that
okay.
too. So by the time
So
this
people-
airs,
all
it'll
right.
be up and available from our website to be able to check in.
Okay, good, good.
It's going to be
And
exciting.
they
We're going to have a
can
band. We're going to have a band. We'll have food available there. It's going to be kind of a political junkie fun
Get
time.
together?
Get together.
It sounds good. I just hope everybody, the word gets out so we get a whole bunch of people there. And we have,
I hope we do too.
yeah.
When I look at the impact that they come out with for polls, we polled 500 people. I think 500 people or 1,000 people that actually show up and start the process of, because we're going to ask people, come with an idea of who your second choice is, who your third choice is. If we can get that mindset going, people are going to be more likely to say, gee, I really like candidate so-and-so, but they're hardly ever here. They have no money. I really love them, but they don't have a chance. So I'm going to try to help somebody who does have a chance. The next one in line that I like the best, that I would feel comfortable having as president. And then they go to candidate number 2 or maybe candidate number 3. That doesn't happen now because you go to vote on election day, primary election day here in New Hampshire, you cast your vote and you find out that your candidate got 1% of the vote. So you did nothing to help them, and you did nothing to help the candidate who was more like your thinking, but just wasn't your first choice.
So you're getting people to think a little bit more about it and really evaluate the candidates in their mind, but when they come to your affair.
This is true. Candidates are a little bit leery of it. I've worked all this time getting people to endorse me, and now you're going to urge them to go to somebody else if I don't win this thing. But that's politics, and maybe some of them do need a reality check. And if this is the thing that prompts maybe 3 or 4 of them to get out and clear the field and give it a little bit more airtime. And attention to the other remaining candidates, well, that in itself is important.
Well, it's going to be something. You're breaking the whole plan for some people. I think it's a good idea. You're going to get a lot of people out there, a lot of people that are really going to be active, I think. So good luck in that.
Thank you.
Okay. Nice having you here. We'll get together and before your affair and maybe do it once again, and you can talk it up a little bit more.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And remember, 603alliance.org.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Fran, and thank you for listening in. And don't forget the Nashua City Republican Committee has a website. You can find out more details about this on the website also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.